In this video, I'm going to show you how I sleep hack my way to a perfect night's sleep after a hard day's work. We'll get into how to measure your sleep, how to properly unwind in the evening, what to do about blue light, and what supplements I take to help with sleeping. My name is Matt Diggity, and I'm the founder of 5 7-figure online businesses. And I'd have to say, out of everything I do to make my life more effective, sleep is the biggest lever. As you know, when you get an excellent night's sleep, you have more energy, that's a given, but you also wake up in a better mood and you're kinder to those around you. You also think clearer and have less quote-unquote brain fog. And lastly, your stress is reduced. But when your sleep sucks, you feel drained and it's hard to get out of bed, you're grouchy, it's harder to make decisions and just straight up think because of that brain fog, and anything slightly annoying will stress you out. After going down the path and optimizing my sleep, I sleep like a baby. These are the typical sleep scores I get through my sleep tracking device, which we'll discuss later. And because I'm getting good sleep, I find myself relatively stress-free. How do I know that? Because I regularly test my levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. And this all falls back to the sleep and evening habits I've formed. But let me clarify right away, it didn't always used to be like this. For 5 years straight, I was an insomniac and had to take Ambien every single night just to fall asleep. I've always had a hard time sleeping. When I was 5 years old, my freaking babysitter let me watch Nightmare on Elm Street, whose whole premise was if you fall asleep, you die. Thanks, dude. Good looking out. Sounds funny now, but it seriously kicked off insomnia my whole life. And once Ambien came out, I was like, perfect. I never even need to try to sleep again. I'll just take this pill and pass out every single night. But like most medicines, Ambien has side effects, like grogginess in the morning, and it affected my mood too. And let's not forget sometimes blacking out and forgetting that I ordered a leather ottoman and a gumball machine of all things on Amazon. So I decided this wasn't sustainable and I went down the research path. I bought $500 an hour consultations from sleep specialists. I trial and errored $10,000 mattresses, thousands of dollars worth of supplements, read 6 books, and probably listened to a month's worth of podcasts. And right now I'm about to share what really works for myself after our 8-year sleep journey. Habits, supplements, all of it. Please make sure to stick around to the end where I list out the things you absolutely need to avoid if you want a good sleep. At the very least, make sure to avoid them at all costs. But real quick, 9 out of 10 researchers say that the best way to get a good sleep is to smash the like button. Actually, 0 out of 10 researchers think that, but it helps my channel out a lot and it helps me sleep better at night too. So give that like button a tappity tap if you don't mind. Thanks. Now, before I get started, I do need to give you the obligatory spiel. I'm not a doctor. I'm a random entrepreneur guy on the internet. This is not medical advice, and speak to a doctor before you do anything. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about the first thing I did in my sleep journey, which is get proper tracking. Business guru Peter Drucker said one of my favorite quotes, "What gets measured gets managed." I couldn't agree more. Everyone is different, and you need to see which habits and changes work for you and actually cause an improvement. Maybe you decide you want to try eating dinner earlier. Awesome. With proper tracking, you'll be able to see if that actually made an improvement. The tracker I use is called the Oura Ring. I swear half of my friends have one of these, my wife included. I've also heard a lot of good things about the Whoop strap, but I just don't see how it's comfortable to wear at night when you're sleeping. Anyhow, just get something so you can start your tracking. Here's what you're looking for. According to Healthline, you should be getting 1 to 2 hours of deep sleep per 8 hours of nightly sleep. But what I found from talking to doctors, this depends a lot on your genetics and your age. My wife gets between 2 to 3 hours of deep sleep every night without even trying, and yes, it makes me jealous. Deep sleep is super beneficial. It helps with your memory, emotional processing, physical recovery, metabolism, immune system, and detoxification. It's also key in hormone production. When you start tracking, you'll notice that it's typically the first half of the night that's front-loaded with deep sleep. So the key here is trying your best not to wake up in the beginning of the night. I'll get into the habits soon. Aside from deep sleep, you want 90 minutes or so of REM sleep. REM sleep relates to learning and memory. As I mentioned, a ton of my friends have sleep trackers like this Oura Ring. And what I typically see is that people have great deep sleep and struggle with REM or vice versa. I always have plenty of REM sleep and super vivid dreams as well. Deep sleep is what I work at. Lastly, depending on your age, you want enough total sleep. Adults want 7 to 9 hours generally, and that's actual sleep, not just the time in bed. And this is why tracking is important. Once you get your tracker, see where you're at, find your baseline. Then try experimenting with some of the suggestions in this video and see how they improve your scores. That is, after you talk to your doctor. I'm not a doctor, okay? One more preparation item before we start getting into the routine. Find out what your sleep chronotype is. What the hell is that? Well, you find out if you're a bear or a freaking dolphin, of course. But seriously, you go to thepowerofwhenquiz.com and answer some questions about your daily habits, and your report will let you know when it's ideal for you to be sleeping. So for me, I'm a lion. I'm productive in the morning and like to wake up around 5 a.m. That means I should go to sleep around 9 p.m. Now that I know that, I start planning how my day should be, especially my evenings. I start winding down my day at about 5 p.m. And that means I stop working at 5 p.m. Remember, I go to sleep about 4 hours from now, so I want to give my brain enough time to relax. We're going to get into the two brain modes, story mode and problem-solving mode later, but just know you need to start chilling out on challenging brain activity in the evening. It's not conducive to sleep. I think you can agree from your own experience that working up until 5 minutes before you go to bed never results in a good sleep. Doctors and specialists have both told me that 2 hours before bed is plenty, but for me, it really was playing with fire. So I made it 4 hours for good measure. Also around 5 p.m., I eat my last meal of the day. Most doctors, specialists, and even my yoga teachers suggest no food at least 3 hours before bed. It takes a lot of energy to digest food. Your heart rate elevates and blood rushes to your gut to help with the digestion process. You want to give your body some time to settle your food before you head off to sleep. An article in Forbes quotes Jessica Tong, who says that your body clock is synchronized by your exposure to light and your meals, so timing them correctly may help you sleep better. By the way, we'll get into the importance of light very soon. This is a bit off topic, but I'm also into intermittent fasting. So regardless of sleep, I really don't mess around with food after 5 p.m. Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Body suggests munching on some nuts before bed for various reasons like improving testosterone or reducing cortisol spikes from low insulin levels. That might help for you, but I'm in the intermittent fasting camp. After dinner around 6 p.m., I go outside and take a walk with my daughter and wife. In my previous video on my morning routine, I gave a lot of love to Professor Andrew Huberman from Stanford. He's got an absolutely killer podcast, by the way, so check it out if you're into body and mind optimization. From him, I learned a lot about the importance of getting real natural sunlight in your eyes in the evening. Something about the angle of the sun and the colors of the sky when the sun is setting triggers the sensors in the eyes to tell the body that it's getting closer to bedtime and it's time to get that natural melatonin production ready to go. Probably even more important, at least with my own personal testing, is getting sunlight in the eyes 1 hour after waking up. And since we're on the topic of morning routines, if you drink caffeine, do it in the morning. Professor Matthew Walker, an author of Why We Sleep, says that the quarter life of caffeine is 12 hours. So if you sleep at 9 p.m. like me, and you drink coffee at 9 a.m., you still have a quarter of it in you at bedtime interfering with your sleep. So drink your caffeine early. At about 7 p.m., which is around sunset where I live, it's time to get really serious about light exposure. Dating back to when we were cavemen, we evolved to think that when blue wavelengths hit our eyes, that meant that the sun was out and it's time to go out and hunt and gather and all that good stuff. But in this day and age, we have so much artificial blue light from our monitors, mobile phones, street lights. It's everywhere, and the effect is the same. It tells your brain that it's daytime and it's not time to sleep. Bright light is bad too, regardless if it's blue or whatever, so it's best to dim the lights in your house after sunset. If you have a smart home setup with automatic dimming, now you have some Tony level action going on. But one of the biggest game changers for me was getting blue blocker glasses. There's debate on their effectiveness, but like I said, for me and based on my sleep tracking numbers, wearing blue blocker glasses after sunset has been a complete game changer. I use these guys here from Blue Blocks, which are quite pricey, but they got a decent aesthetic and they make me look like Brad Pitt from Fight Club, but without the body and the face. There's tons of different alternatives on Amazon at cheaper prices. Just make sure to get 80 to 90% or more of blue blocking. My sleep specialist told me that TVs and mobile devices are okay if you have your blue blockers on, but turn down your brightness for good measure. Around 8 p.m., it's time to retire to the bedroom and start winding down. Here's some tips for setting up your bedroom for optimal sleep. Completely black out your room. No light whatsoever. Even those little lights for your TV or your dimmers or your aircon, put tape over them. I've even gone to the extent of taping packaging paper up on my windows. According to Healthline, the optimal temperature for sleeping is 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. That's freaking cold, but for me, I definitely agree that the colder the room is, the better I sleep. Your body temperature naturally drops when you sleep. Putting yourself in a cold environment helps you along that process. I've also tried the Chili Pad, which is a water-cooled mattress topper that gets your bed to tundra levels. I liked it, but I ended up ditching it because it makes the mattress a bit uncomfortable. Next, this may sound pretty tin hat, but remove all the dirty electricity from your room. Don't charge your phone near your head. If you keep your phone in your room when you sleep, keep it on airplane mode. And if you want to go next level, turn off your router at night. Another thing you might want to consider is adding white noise to your room. I learned a lot about this when I was reading a ton of baby books in preparation for my daughter's birth. When in the womb, there's a lot of white noise due to the liquids sloshing around in there. You can mimic these primordial soothing sounds with the white noise machine or simply your aircon or fan. Now, as you're winding down in your sleep optimized room, you want to start getting your brain in story mode. What's that? Our brains are complex, but in a vast oversimplification, you could say there's a couple of modes they can be in: problem-solving mode and story mode, and some spectrum in between. Problem-solving is what you're doing all day long when you're at work. And while problem-solving is absolutely necessary for you to function in life, it requires effort and drains your energy. Yes, thinking burns calories. About 20% of your energy consumption is done by the brain, according to this article by Time. The problem is that staying in problem-solving mode isn't conducive to falling asleep, and it's likely contributing to you staying awake at night. On the other side of things, we have story mode. It's when your brain is focused on loving up stories, like watching your favorite show on Netflix or reading fiction. When in story mode, your brain isn't in the driver's seat anymore trying to figure out how to conquer the world. It's a passenger enjoying the scenery. When you're dreaming, obviously you're in story mode. Your subconscious is just playing out stories for you. So put on an old movie as long as you got your blue blockers on. It'll help your brain chill out. I like to read fiction in bed with the Kindle Paperwhite on its lowest brightness settings. And if you're curious, I read fantasy. I also highly recommend the Sleep With Me podcast. It's run by this guy Drew, who basically rambles and tells you super disconnected and random stories. Very similar to your dreams. If I absolutely cannot fall asleep, this podcast will do it every time. Now before I said that mobile devices were okay as long as you had your blue blockers on. There's an exception to this. I find that if I'm laying in bed about to go to sleep and I spend time scrolling through YouTube, Facebook, or Lord forbid TikTok feeds, my sleep and my sleep stats are going to be completely ruined. I assume this is because of the huge dopamine hits that you get from these apps telling you more, more, more. So at least for me, apps like these are a no-go before bed. Everything I've mentioned up to this point is part of what we call general sleep hygiene. What I was told to do is do as much of the sleep hygiene as I can and then track and see where I'm at. If you do the same, with any luck, you're already getting plenty of great sleep. Your deep and REM sleep are fine and your scores are through the roof. But if that's not the case, that's when you want to start adding in some extras. If you have access to a sauna, and especially a cold or ice bath, doing a rotation about 2 hours before bed will really relax the hell out of you and may improve your sleep. You want to end with the ice bath, as that's going to lower your body temperature, which you already know is great for sleep. If you want to learn more about both saunas and ice baths, Dr. Rhonda Patrick has published some great research. Next, and your partner might hate you for this, consider sleeping in a different bed. Many people are just super light sleepers and any movement in bed will wake them up. Try sleeping in another bed and testing it out, but at your own risk, please. After that, I haven't tried this out, but I've heard good things about grounding blankets and mat. Essentially, you sleep with them and they ground you to make sure there's nearly zero chance of any dirty electricity or electrostatic discharge, ESD, that will surge through your body at night. Then we have supplements, which should come last. Of course, talk to your doctor about any supplementation that you're considering. That said, here's what I take if and only if I need a little bit of help falling or staying asleep. And what I'll do is I'll take these on rotation, not all at once. Box Rescue Sleep Liquid Melts, Life Extension L-theanine, Life Extension L-tryptophan, California Gold Nutrition Lemon Balm, and a local Thai brand of CBD. Again, I take these on rotation only if I need some help. So one night I might take some lemon balm, but I won't take it again after I cycled through the rest. That's so I don't develop any dependencies. Just a quick note on melatonin. Depending on who you listen to, there's side effects. But one of the biggest issues is that it's just really hard to dose. You think you're taking 1 milligram of it, but due to low accuracy standards, you might be taking 0.1 or 10 milligrams. And it's really easy to overdose on melatonin. In my experience, melatonin helps me get to sleep, but not stay asleep. It actually does the opposite. I often find myself shooting out of bed at 1 a.m. wide awake. Once I quit melatonin completely, my sleep scores improved about 15%. Okay, so now let's get into what you want to avoid at all costs if you want to get a good night's sleep. First off, alcohol. I don't want to be a party pooper and I enjoy a drink myself, but drinking will destroy your sleep. You might fall asleep easier, but the sleep quality is going to be garbage. This is how it usually shows up for me. Low total sleep, terrible efficiency and restfulness because I wake up 100 times to pee, and because of that, my REM and deep sleep are destroyed. Choose your battles, that's all I can say. Late night eating is also really going to mess with your sleep, so avoid those midnight Taco Bell runs, no pun intended on the runs either. As you know, avoid blue light before bed. It's just going to tell your brain and body that it's not time to sleep, start cranking up that cortisol and turn down the natural melatonin production. No good. Don't work late. Remember, you want story mode, not problem solving mode. Don't work out late. It's just going to spike your heart rate and all your non-sleep hormones. Don't sleep at random times every night. Your body needs to get used to a regular circadian rhythm. Once your body recognizes what time you typically go to sleep, you'll be working with it, not against it. And remember to subscribe for more videos just like these.